Well, we'll go ahead and get started. There may be some others that come in, but
I don't want
the
to remember
cafeteria
this.
is suddenly empty, so this may be us. You never can tell who's going to show up or not. Today's speaker is David Boyer, who is the professor of secondary education and associate dean of the School of Education. I've known David for several years since he's been working at LCU, and it seems as if every year I find out something interesting about him, like he played Bat Masterson in Guys and Dolls. Oh, that one still puzzles me a little bit. I keep asking for an example of song and dance, and he does not comply for some reason. Maybe that's in today's presentation.
Not today. Not today.
My favorite thing about David, though, I found out when I first went with the School of Education to a conference. He's a diners, drive-ins, and dives sort of guy. Loves to find good places to eat and loves a great dessert. I can get behind somebody like that. If you ever get the chance to go up to a conference with David, follow him around because he always finds good places to eat. I know we'll enjoy hearing what he has to say today, so please welcome David Boyer.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. I've had some people tell me they wish they'd have been here today, and I told them I don't know if I would rather have a root canal than do this. I've never had a root canal, but I've seen people that have, and I might rather have a root canal than talk about myself. But Susan has organized this, and I've enjoyed coming and learning more about my colleagues, and so I couldn't really say no when she finally got to me at the end of the list. Well, David, I guess I'll ask David to come too. I'm in the middle. But thanks for coming out. I'm gonna allow this slideshow to kind of dictate how we go. I always have interaction, and I know you're eating right now, so you don't have to text. You don't have to text a response right now. I'll let you just tell me which one of these four places do you think is my hometown?
I don't know.
There's a Hayesville.
I would guess
Alamogordo.
Normally I would say Hayesville, but I'm going to say Denver.
Denver. Okay.
New Mexico.
We got to New Mexico? Okay. So I think we got everybody covered up there. My hometown is Hayesville, Kansas. I grew up in Hayesville, Kansas. I was actually born in Abilene, Texas. My dad was working on a master's degree at ACU. And then, oh, thanks for now. Somebody texted the right answer. So my first 17 years, 18 years were in the Kansas area. So my kids wanted me to show you some pictures. You know, they're really into pictures. They said, Dad, these are the pictures we laugh at. And Brooklyn loves the one where I have my hair parted down the middle. And, you know, she loves the high school. But you see my school-age years from the very beginning, probably kindergarten over there in that red shirt, all the way up to my the senior picture. During those years, I lived in Kansas. The first 7 years of school, I was a product of public school. And then I had an opportunity to go to a private college preparatory school from 8th grade through 12th grade. And so you see my attire kind of changed a little bit in my school pictures too.
Are those highlights or is that a glare?
There are not highlights. No highlights. No, it's all natural. Yes, it's a glare. I am the second of four kids in our family. My dad was a preacher for the first 20 years of my life, and so I grew up a PK, preacher's kid. And being the second kid, that sometimes tells you something about my personality too, being the second. And then when you're the second of four and you're a preacher's kid, I won't tell you anything about what I got in trouble doing or anything like that. But those were my formative years. Public school the first 7, and then private college prep school in secondary. If you're texting, or if you just want to pop it out there, what do you think my main interest was in high school?
Girls.
Good, girls. What was over here?
Math or sports, which one?
Math, sports, girls.
That's what I would have guessed.
Josh?
Theater.
Josh is texting in a response.
Oh.
Okay, it'll be there in a second. Theater,
I think the theater thing was because of girls.
I said football.
football. Did you text in the number first and then?
Yeah, and it said the keyword football could not be found.
When I don't text in that number, the 722-523 space and then football, it won't find it. But you said football and you said theater because of girls?
No,
Who's-
because I said theater because.
I said,
Theater.
because she said you were in production.
Typing club.
Typing. Oh, if you saw me type, that would be funny. I was involved in basketball and performing arts. I did baseball and basketball growing up, and band, actually, up until 8th grade. And then when I got to this college preparatory school, they had performing arts, and I'd never done that before. And the guy that was in charge of that found out I was a preacher's kid from the Church of Christ, and I could probably sing. And so he said, I've got a place for you. And so I was Charlie Brown, and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, in 8th grade. That was the very first time I'd ever stepped on an official stage and sung anything. As a preacher's kid, there were lots of times when Dad was working on his sermon that we would grab the microphone and have sermons ourselves, you know, and really bring them to the, nobody was there, but we would really get into it. So that was my first official time. Basketball, kept playing basketball through high school. I decided I was not going to be a collegiate athlete. I had the white man's disease. I was not good and I could not jump. And I still have not. But that's what I enjoyed doing. So singing, performing arts, theater, basketball. Notice school wasn't really in there anywhere. I wasn't really an academic type person. I graduated with 27 people in my class. I was number 9. The 8 people ahead of me were all national merit finalists. And I was not even close. So I like to look at myself as being the top of a different class. I was 9th out of the rest of the 27. Some of you, Dr. Peebles has actually had me in class. He laughed a little too hard as he choked that down. Here's your next question. After I graduated and came to Lubbock Christian University, what were my interests here? Girls? Nobody's going to say girls? I didn't lose interest in girls. Club. Okay. What else? Did I like math?
Say math, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you enjoyed math.
I was in a lot of classes with you, and I didn't have to retake any of them.
That's right.
That's good.
Choir?
Choir?
Did better than one wrong.
Bible major. Oh. Actually, I was an accounting major for 1 year. I started out in accounting with Dr. Dobbs and worked for Dr. Dobbs as her student worker for a little while. After accounting 2, I decided that accounting was not for me. And that's when I was introduced to mathematics, because I did enjoy mathematics, even though sometimes it was challenging, to say the least. But a cappella was one of my primary interests when I came here. I did do club, and I'll talk about that here in a second, but my son has tweeted out this picture of me in these shorts. Some of you are...
Aren't those jams?
Yes, they are. You remember jams, okay? And who am I sitting next to? Dr. Hines. Many of you know Dr. Hines and Mama Hines. I believe we were in the airport headed to Hawaii on one of our trips to Hawaii. So I've got my KU shirt on and my jams, and my son just thinks that's hilarious to see his dad in jams. But a cappella was a very special, very, very special part of our life. Traveled a lot, lifelong friends. We went all over the country on the buses, and a couple times to Hawaii together. So
What years were you at LCU?
from 87 to 92. I graduated in 87 from high school, and I graduated from here in 92. Yes, that's 5 years. I was here for 5 years. Hey, Michelle, it is 5. I have 2 degrees from this great university. One of them's in mathematics. A real degree, I think, is what you called it a second ago. All right. The other thing that took a lot of my time was club. I was in Alpha Chi Delta, served as an officer, served as a president, vice president. I was in 4 or 5 different Follies shows. So every time that we see, our family sees Follies, it brings back great memories of the times that we had there. I also spent a little bit of time in math classes, many of which I struggled in. But some by the grace of God, some by the grace of Dr. Peebles, and some by the grace of some of the other math professors that were here. But I think struggling made me a better teacher, actually, because I did know what it felt like to not understand some of the things that went on and to work your way through it. But I took some math courses. I took a lot of other courses too. There was a degree here before Susan did away with it. What was the degree? Liberal arts?
Liberal arts.
Yeah, before Dr. Blassingame demolished the liberal arts degree. Dr. Estep came to me and said, David, you've been here so long, you have a math degree and you have enough hours for something else too. Would you like this liberal arts degree? I had German and English classes and a lot of dual credit and CLEP hours, so I ended up with 2 degrees. It wasn't that I was going after a liberal arts degree, but that's how I ended up with it. I had taken a lot of things. I enjoyed a lot of classes. And had a great time while I was here as a student. Graduated with a degree in mathematics in 1992. May of 1992, I graduated. A week later, Tanya and I were married. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the marriage picture. That's, you recognize Follies. Some of you have been around here for a while. That's one of our Follies shows. But I did get married in 1992. I look young then, don't I? Everybody looks young in their wedding picture, but our family came for graduation, and they all went back to Alabama and Kansas, and they all came back a week later for the wedding. But Tanya and I dated. We met here her freshman year, and we dated the entire time that we were here, and we're married, and that is the best thing. Even though a lot of great things happened here at LCU, that is by far the best thing that happened to me during my time here. God blessed me with a wonderful spouse. After I graduated, what did I do? Was I an actuary? Go for a short stint on Broadway? Was I a preacher or a teacher? So you're like, I don't know. I don't want to be wrong.
I'm going to go actuary.
Actuary?
That's a very specific word.
It is a very specific word. Do you know what it is?
No, I have no idea.
I know it.
It's a good guess. Yeah.
How long you're gonna die and how
Yeah.
insurable
It's the
you
people
Yeah.
that create the
It's like a
tables for
mortuary.
insurance.
The people that create the tables,
Never
yes.
gonna die.
It's like a mortuary.
So you were a math major, so you could have been.
They set the rates for insurance companies and things like that. They look at the stats and figure out what the insurance companies ought to charge for their rates and stuff. And they consult with businesses. I didn't know you did anything for teaching, so I'm gonna say teaching.
You're going to go with teaching? Nobody's going to go with preaching.
I'll go with preaching.
I did all my preaching when I was in high school. When Dad couldn't fill a position, he would say, "Oh, well, I've got a 16-year-old son. He'll go preach for you." Then he would come home and tell me. So the preaching that I did was during high school. I did teach. I never went to Broadway, never wanted to go to Broadway. I did want to be an actuary, though. That's what I was going to do with my degree in mathematics. And I went for an interview for an internship in Atlanta one summer. I think it was between my junior and senior year. And I decided I don't want to sit in those cubicles all day long, even though it was one of the highest paying, lowest stress jobs in the world. That's why I chose it. High pay, low stress. No, no glamour. But it was high pay, low stress, and I liked that. I was smart enough to like low stress and lots of money. But
With teaching, which is low pay.
high stress, low pay. Yes, I went the other direction. It was in my second senior year that I'd already finished my math degree, and I was hanging around because Tanya needed another year. She started a year behind me. And I said, well, I'll go ahead and get certified to teach while I'm here. And she's going to be a teacher, elementary teacher, and that'd be kind of cool to share those holidays together. And then my first experience for my 2-week unit was just over here at junior high, and I loved it. And I said, wow. I told my parents I was never going to teach. I swore I was not going to teach, and now I'm going to eat my words. And so I love teaching. And I took over the class where I did my student teaching out at Friendship. That teacher went to be a principal, and I took his classroom. So it was a great transition. I taught high school math, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, pre-calculus, trigonometry, and I loved the classroom. But it was time, after 3 years, Tanya and I thought we wanted her to stay home when we started having kids. And so I started my master's degree in educational leadership at Texas Tech. And at the end of the 5th year, I finished that, and they hired me to be one of the administrators at Friendship High School. It's kind of hard to be a young person in charge of people that are a lot older than you. And I figured that out at a very early age, that they don't just respect what you know. They've been around a lot longer than you've been alive. So I gained a lot of valuable experience there. So I taught, and then I was a principal. Then I came home. The prodigal son returns. Dr. Joyce Harden had called me a few times and said, really would like to get you back over here. And I said, Joyce, I don't make a lot of money, but I make a lot more money than what you guys make over there. And she said, but there's more than money. And I said, yes, but we're a one-income family, and this is why I've done this. And it was the time where I was about to be a principal at a junior high, was the next step in my career. And she finally got me over here for an interview. And of course, when you get back on campus and all the wonderful memories and the potential and the people that you work with, and she extended an invitation for me to return, and she was retiring. We never worked together, but if you want to blame somebody, she's the reason that I'm here. Dr. Peoples going to blame her, aren't you?
I thought I was ready,
Yeah, came back and you're like, what is that guy doing here? Well, upon my return, she did say, I know you have your master's degree, but we really need a terminal degree. And so I think I talked to Rod and Don at the time and asked what they needed that terminal degree to be in, and if it was along my interest. And educational leadership was what my master's was in. And so educational leadership is what I did my doctorate in as well. So I started, 2001. They let me have one semester without graduate work, and I started in January of 2001, and I defended in March of 2003. It was quick. It was a whirlwind. Worked really, really hard. Did not see my family much, but my kids, I'd put them to sleep at 9 o'clock. Many of you did this. You put your kids to sleep, and then you go work from 9 o'clock till 2 o'clock at the office or whatever. And they never remember. They don't even remember that Dad ever had to do that. So I count that a blessing as well. Say had to do that. I wouldn't have done that had LCU not needed a terminal degree. The profession I was in, unless I was going to be a superintendent, didn't really need a terminal degree. But I did enjoy it. The picture that's in the middle there, that's most of my immediate family at the time that I graduated. My dad's on your far left there. He's passed on. He was the first in his family to attend college, any place. So then he was the first to get a master's. He was also the first to get a doctorate. He did that a little later in life, after the preaching career, and he started teaching at a college. Then the next one is my younger sister. She lives here in Lubbock. Then my mom. Some of you saw her last week. She lives in Kansas. And there's me. Then my older sister. Some of you, let's see. I don't think any of you were here. Michelle might know her. My older sister, Deborah. No? Yes? Yeah, Deborah and Brian. She's 2 years older than I am. They live in New Mexico. All those cities that I showed you a little while ago, that's where all the rest of my family lives. And then my brother-in-law, Brian. And then Tanya is kneeling down there, and then my younger brother, Darren. All of the kids in that picture graduated from Lubbock Christian University. Okay, all four in my family, our spouses, all graduated from Lubbock Christian University. So you may start to see that there's a commonality here and a reason why we love this place. I just love this picture because when I graduated, Tyler was graduating from kindergarten at the same time. So we got to don our robes together and have a picture. And I love that because I have a picture just like that with my dad when he was graduating with his master's at ACU. And I was up in front of some building at ACU, and I always looked at that. And I guess in some way that planted a seed that education is important. Not just going to school, but being successful and graduating. And I look back at that now and look at that as a very positive memory. Some of you really want to know what I worked on and what I published and what is in that book that's now. I donated one to the library. I donated one to Texas Tech Library. I gave one to every friend and family I ever had, a bound copy, and signed it. And of course, I haven't cracked mine, but more than a couple of times since I did that. I do have graduate students every now and then that will borrow it and want to go through and look at some things research-wise. But my dissertation was the title: Case Study of the Educational Leader's Role in Effective New Teacher Induction Programs. We all know they just make you come up with this big old long title, right? So that it fits on the whole side, and you need more than one page. And essentially, what this comes down to is, what does a principal do to help with a new teacher coming into the field? Okay, and a lot of these things transfer across into many professions. And I've seen that even here at LCU, when we get new professors in here, there's not a manual, is there? There's not a manual for how do you advise, and how do you take attendance on self-serve, and do you even go to faculty meetings and all those kinds of things. Dr. Peebles, some of us still go to faculty meetings. Okay? Yeah.
I'll be there tomorrow.
You'll be there? Okay. The highlights, it was a qualitative study. Two questions that basically drove my research. What's the role of the educational leader in relation to the effective new teacher induction? And what are the educational leader's specific actions, behaviors, and attitudes that contribute to effective new teacher induction practices? I like visuals, even though I can't make them or draw them, and I'm not artistic, but I like to see how things fit together. So here are kind of the three areas where the data came from. Archives text best, that's just something that's was put out by the state of Texas to help train new mentors and mentees. So a brand new person who comes into the field of education would have somebody who's been trained in text best as a mentor. And so there was a whole calendar of what they needed to do and what they should talk about and all those kinds of things. So that was archival data. That was available for anyone in the public to see, videos, training, and all that kind of stuff. Then there were two sets of interviews, 5 people each in these interviews, with both principals, educational leaders, and then teachers as well. So we take all that data, put that data together, do all of our research, and come back to, in a nutshell, what does it mean? How does this help me, or how does it help somebody else who is an educational leader? How does it help somebody be a good mentor? Because that, to me, is important in lots of professions. If you don't seek out a mentor and find somebody who's good at what they do, you probably aren't going to stay very long. I just see that in a lot of positions, whether it's as a preacher or teacher or whatever it might be. So the mentor is pretty important. Here's some of the qualities, some of the actions that an educational leader needed. Buy-in. Okay, he or she needed to buy in. So did the teacher. They need to buy into the whole system. So when I translate it to here at LCU, do you buy into this place? Do you want to be a part of Christian education? Do you want to do this differently than they will do it at a state school? Okay? You have to be personable and an effective communicator, which does require some positive feedback and praise. It never feels bad to receive praise. We all like to hear if we're doing a good job. And some of us assume if we don't hear anything that we must be doing a good job. Right? And Susan's saying, yes, if I don't hear anything, it must be good. But to go out of your way to be intentional about praising somebody, giving them some positive feedback. Very important. The data also showed that to be actively engaged in that induction process was important. You can't just set it up and walk away and come back and check on them at Christmas. It just doesn't work that way. You have to check on them on a regular basis. What does this look like? Scheduled meetings, time where it's just the two of you, where you're intentional about it. You and your mentor have some time where you're talking about certain things at different times during the year. Serve as a provider, a role model, and a coach. And in our case, classroom management and discipline in the public schools is always a big deal. You can only learn so much about classroom management until you actually get your own classroom. And you try these management techniques, and you see that every kid is different, and they all come from a different background. And it's a wonderful puzzle, but it's challenging too. So classroom management's important. Emotional stability. When's the last time you saw somebody just break down and either vent, be angry, cry? And I'm talking about even here at LCU. I've seen it. Okay, we all get. It was Tuesday. Okay, we've all seen that. Okay, and that's okay to have a safe place to do that, and a safe person, safe environment to do that with. If you don't, then you end up burning out. You end up going someplace else and saying, I don't care how bad it is somewhere, I'm going there. All right? So that emotional stability was showed to be very important. And then trust and mutual respect. Okay? If you share something with somebody, you have to feel like that's not going to come back on you. It's not going to come back in your evaluation. It's not going to come back as a weakness that you have. And so they trust you. You say you're going to do something, and you do it. If you don't do it, then you tell them what you tried to do and why you weren't able to do it. And so through the interviews, through the archival data, these things surfaced as things, as actions that our educational leader would do. And this picture basically shows, we've got this brand new teacher over here that they just want to survive. And that they want to survive and have their basic needs met, but they also want to be the best possible teacher or professor that they can be. Well, the organization, LCU, needs us to be very good at what we do. They have high expectations. They have expectations of continued study. They have expectations of terminal degree. They have expectations of office hours. They have expectations that we'll actually meet class, and that when we meet class, we actually do teach something. All right? We have these demands from the organization. And so who bridges the gap between that? Okay? And this study showed that the educational leader, when they're effective, they're the ones that bridge the gap. So whether it's your chair, if you're serving as a chair, whether it's a dean, if you're serving as a dean, president, vice president, wherever you are, that's part of your job, is to bridge that gap and not assume that they can jump over and satisfy all their basic needs and jump over and satisfy the university. If we don't do that, then we end up seeing somebody who just kind of goes off into their own little world. They stay in their office, they might teach their classes, but they never really connect. They never connect with the students much outside of their classroom. They never really connect with the faculty, and so they don't have relationships. And without relationships, there is no bridge. Okay? That's enough about my dissertation. I'll answer questions here because I know sometimes Dr. Blassingame has some questions if nobody else does. But that's where I ended in 2003 with the actual physical study. But I don't think I've ever stopped looking at what it takes to be a good educational leader. I want to be that type of person for the people that I work with. And sometimes I know it's frustrating. I'll sit in a meeting and I'll ask a question and they'll say, "What are you bringing that up for? Why are you stirring the pot?" And those of you who've been in meetings with me know that's just part of my personality. It's not that I want to cause problems. I just want us to look at every single angle. I've been called black and white before. I don't know if that's I don't think it was a compliment. But I think as an educational leader, if we look at all those perspectives and never lose the value of the people that are in front of us, the students that we have with us, the students that have gone before, the people that we work with, the staff that cleans your building. Just a little bit ago, I was standing outside looking at our wall. Okay, probably 75% of the pictures, the plaques that are on the wall, I either was in their class or I was here at LCU at some point in time when they were here. I know them personally, and I know what their dedication was and is to Lubbock Christian University. So, family is what it's about to me. That's why I'm here. I don't have any desire to go anyplace else. I have to point out, though, before I take questions, my School of Ed family is right here. We took this picture in front of the SHAP. Some of them actually rode the SHAP, but that picture's on Facebook. You have to go to Facebook to see that. Then you see my family. But I have to point out for Brooklyn, those of you who know Brooklyn, look at how she's posing. You see in the little cowboy cheerleader outfit, she's got that little hand on the hip. Do you see the hand on the hip up there just last December? Women, where do you guys learn that?
It's in DNA.
It's in your DNA? Okay. Because she poses that way. She did not. I am not doing that. I do not pose like that. But anyway, LC is a great family. We've had some come and some go, and many went before us. And so my hope is that the Lord will continue to bless us with many more years in His service. So thank you. I'll field any questions that you may have about.
Well, I'll start as usual. Did your father get his bachelor's at ACU or just his master's?
No, he got his bachelor's at Emporia State University.
Okay. So how in the world did you end up and all of your brothers and sisters end up at LCU?
Well, my sister was 2 years older, and the choir came through and stopped in Kansas. That was one of the areas they used to recruit in, Kansas and California, sometimes even Nebraska. But Kansas is really heavy with Oklahoma Christian and Harding. Those are the two that even still, they're the closest. Some go to York, but most don't want to go to York. It's too cold. And so they'll go a little bit further south. But the chorus came through and stayed in our home. We always hosted anytime they came through. And she really liked those relationships. So when she was going, she came down and visited. When she came down and visited, we all came down to visit as well. And then when I was a senior, and they gave us an actual week. It was a college preparatory school, so they gave us a week we could take off school and go visit school. So a buddy and I drove our sports cars down. I had a little 280Z and he had a 300Z. We kind of raced from Kansas to Abilene, but we went to Abilene and visited Abilene. I'd already been to Lipscomb. I'd already visited Harding. I'd already been to York. I've been to Oklahoma Christian many times growing up for youth rallies and things like that. And LCU was my last stop here, and when it was just me and my sister was off with her friends, I like this place. And so I would assume that my two younger siblings kind of felt the same way. I don't exactly know how they made their decision.
Fascinating.
But Dad always said he should have bought a house here instead of paying all the rent that he paid, but you never know. So.
And how did they get from Kansas to Alabama?
Well, Tanya's family lives in Alabama. Her dad is one of the VPs at Faulkner. And so when I started dating her in '88, they up and left 1,000 miles away. And I tried not to take that personally because she was here at school. But they just up and left because they had a new president that was starting. He had just started, and he talked to Jim and said, "Would you come and serve for me?" And he did. So that's where the Alabama connection comes in. Tanya never lived in Alabama, but, well, for 1 year she did, but that was in 6th grade. So.
How long was Jim here? I know he was here when I came in '79. He'd been in the vocational program.
He'd been in the vocational. He had kept the buses running, maintenance area. Of course, Carl was his brother. Carl Sproutlin was his brother.
Carl still living in Florida?
He is.
Yeah.
He is up in the
Hope.
Panhandle. There's hope. Yes. I'm not exactly sure how many years he was here. I would guess 5 or 6. Tanya just walked in. How many years do you know?
That Daddy was here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Long time, because all I can remember, I mean, when he was doing the motor pool and then the buses, and then he moved into administration and was there until I was in high school, so, long time.
Yeah, I think he was here. I know he was here when I got here in '79, and then you said he left in what year?
88.
'88.
That's a lot.
That's 9 years right there, and I know he was here before I got here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't do his whole career here. He started a business with Harvey Pruitt, for a while, because they were partners in crime when Harvey was the president here. So, but,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just amazing to me, all those connections. For those of us who are outsiders, you have to pay attention to who you say what to. Because you never know. It could be somebody's father who was, I learned that lesson.
you learned that lesson.
Did you ever participate in a musical at LCU? Other
No.
than Master Follies?
No.
So Don didn't know of your...
I don't know if he didn't know or not, but my thespian activity was limited to Master Follies. I was busy with intramurals and dating and those kinds of things. And I enjoyed it, but those people have to go off and sequester themselves for a long time.
Yeah,
Master Follies was only like 4 or 5 weeks.
yeah.
Hard, but it was, no, I never tried out for anything here
Interesting.
in that way, but.
It's not too late.
Yes, it
Someone
is.
else?
Have you tried out for anything? Okay, lead the way, Dr. Kraft, and maybe I'll ask Josh if he wants to do it.
Were you ever in a musical
No.
or a play?
And I enjoyed it in high school, but I didn't do it.
Fascinating.
I was too busy painting.
Dr. Privet? No? Someone else?
I didn't even do choir.
I was thinking as you were
One time.
talking about the chorus traveling through, we were in a meeting Tuesday about how the states are charging schools to advertise in their states and recruit in their states because they want those students to stay in that state. And apparently Kansas is one of the worst. So I'm guessing the chorus doesn't go through Kansas anymore.
I don't know.
That would be an interesting study to see how many people came to LCU because the chorus went through.
It's a lot.
I would guess
It is too.
hundreds.
I'm sure it would
Yeah.
be.
That was really the only exposure we ever had. We never even heard of Lubbock Christian University because York and OCU and Harding hammer you all the time. And so for anybody to chisel in there would be pretty tough. But they got 4 Boyers by sending the chorus through. So
What math teacher did you replace in that Wolford? I know it wasn't Miss Dodson, because my son had,
Jim Waller,
Jim Moore.
do you remember Jim Waller?
Yeah.
Went to be the principal, and he's now the superintendent at Idlewild, I believe.
Is he? I'll say.
Mhm.
But I know my son had Miss Dodson down there,
Yes.
but. When was that? 30. About the time, no, that would have been before you got there, I think. And she left sometime.
I remember Teresa.
Yeah.
She was there
She's a good teacher.
during my tenure.
Good teacher, good teacher, kind of thing. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Find connections to
Bill's having a conversation.
Just deciding if he wanted to ask me a question.
connections. No,
Okay.
no, I'm just, I have connections with people you have connections with, and I just always think that's kind of neat that many years separated the two connections, but it's, because Jim Waller was my principal when I was superintendent at Petersburg,
Okay.
and so.
Wow.
So because of you, I got a job at Friendship. You hired him to go to
Yeah.
Petersburg.
There you go.
Wow.
Did
Great.
you ever realize that until just now?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'd known the connection, but
Yeah,
not,
that's great.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Dr. Boyer.
Yes.